Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'm so glad to have you with us again today. If you're a fan of rare collectibles, unusual finds, and stories that leave you shaking your head in disbelief, then you're in for a treat. Today, we're diving into the tale of a coin that, at first glance, might seem like nothing more than a simple 5-cent piece. But as we all know, sometimes the things that seem the least valuable are actually the ones that hold the most potential. What we're about to talk about is the incredible story of a 1985 5-cent coin, a coin that was initially worth just 5 cents but went on to fetch an eye-watering $230 million in an auction. It's a story of luck, timing, and an astonishing twist of fate that turned a run-of-the-mill nickel into one of the most expensive coins in history. Stick with us, because this tale will show you just how incredible the world of coin collecting can be. Let's rewind to the year 1985. The mid-80s were a time of big change in the world, particularly in the United States. The economy was in a somewhat shaky place, with inflation still hanging around and people struggling to get by, especially in the wake of the early 80s recession. Yet, in the midst of all that uncertainty, something was happening that most people didn't know about, something that would change the world of numismatics forever. In the U.S. Mint, they were working as usual, producing billions of coins, including the 1985 5-cent coin, which, like most pennies, nickels, and dimes, would end up being circulated to the public and used in everyday transactions. These coins weren't anything special on the surface. They were made with the usual materials, the usual designs. But it was a simple misstep in the production process that would lead to a one-of-a-kind error that, decades later, would change the lives of everyone involved. And this error, which happened during the minting of the 1985 5-cent coins, would forever alter the way people thought about collecting coins. To the untrained eye, this particular 5-cent piece would have looked like just any other nickel from the 1980s. A small, metal coin with Jefferson's portrait on the front and Monticello, his home, depicted on the reverse. But this coin, this unassuming nickel, had something that no one could have predicted: a flaw, a mistake, and that tiny mistake would turn it into something far more valuable than anyone could have imagined. But how did it all begin? Well, the story really starts with a seemingly simple misalignment during the minting process. When coins are struck, a die presses the design onto the metal, and this process is meant to be highly precise. However, every now and then, errors slip through the cracks. In this case, it was a slight misalignment between the die and the coin during the minting process. Normally, this would create a coin with a slightly off-center design, but most of the time, these kinds of mistakes are so minor that they go unnoticed and are never worth anything more than the face value of the coin. But sometimes, in the world of numismatics, those tiny imperfections can turn a common coin into a rare, valuable treasure. The 1985 5-cent coin, which had been minted at the Philadelphia Mint, was one of those rare cases. This particular coin had been struck with a die that was ever so slightly out of alignment, causing the design on the nickel to appear slightly off-center. Now, this wouldn't have seemed like much of a problem at first. After all, people had seen off-center coins before, and they didn't usually command any more money than their regular counterparts. But there was something unique about this particular misalignment, a slight but crucial difference that made it stand out from all the others. At first, the error wasn't noticed by anyone working at the mint or by the people who handled the coin once it had been released into circulation. Like many other coins, it was simply used in everyday transactions, tossed into cash registers, given as change, and eventually forgotten about by most people. However, there was one person who wouldn't let it slip through the cracks. A keen-eyed coin collector who had a sharp eye for unusual and rare coins happened to come across this 1985 5-cent coin during a routine check of his change. At first, he didn't think much of it. After all, many coins get slight imperfections. But as he took a closer look, he noticed something odd. The design was indeed off-center, but it wasn't the kind of misalignment that was commonly found in regular minting errors. The off-center nature of the design was more pronounced than anything he had ever seen before. It was as if the die had missed the mark entirely, causing the portrait of Thomas Jefferson to appear lopsided and the lettering to be skewed in a way that made the coin look almost unrecognizable. This collector, whose name we'll leave out for privacy reasons, was no stranger to rare coins. He had been collecting for years and knew a thing or two about spotting the oddities that could be worth a fortune. At first, he thought it might be a mistake, or maybe he was just overestimating its value. However, after consulting with a few other numismatists, coin experts, the value of the coin began to take shape. This wasn't just any off-center coin. It was one of the most unusual minting errors anyone had seen in recent years. The more experts looked at it, the more they realized that this was an extremely rare find. In fact, they agreed that this 1985 P5 coin could very well be one of the most valuable error coins in existence. The news spread quickly through the numismatic community, and before long, collectors from all over the world were trying to get their hands on this extraordinary coin. Auctions were held, and the bids for the coin skyrocketed. What had initially been considered a simple, everyday nickel now became the center of intense interest. The offers for the coin reached staggering heights, and it soon became clear that this nickel, worth just 5 cents in its original form, could fetch far more than anyone could have imagined. Eventually, after months of bidding, the coin was sold for $230 million, a record-breaking sum that left the numismatic world reeling in a To put that into perspective, this coin was worth more than entire collections of rare coins. In fact, it was worth more than most of the world's most famous coins, including the 1933 Double Eagle, which had previously held the record for the most expensive coin ever sold. What made the 1985 P5 coin so valuable wasn't just its rarity, or the fact that it was an error coin. It was the uniqueness of the flaw, the way it captured the imagination of collectors, and the incredible story behind it. This was a coin that had been overlooked for decades, sitting quietly among millions of others, until one person saw something special and turned it into the most valuable nickel in the world. The sale of the coin made headlines across the globe. People who had never cared about coins were suddenly fascinated by the story of how a simple mistake could lead to such an enormous fortune. The sale sparked a renewed interest in coin collecting, and many people began scouring their own change, hoping to find similar treasures hidden in plain sight. For some, it was a way to dream of striking it rich, while for others, it was a chance to get involved in a hobby that suddenly seemed to have far more potential than anyone had realized. As for the coin itself, it went on to become an iconic symbol in the world of numismatics. It was displayed in museums, exhibited at coin shows, and held up as a shining example of just how valuable an error coin could be. It wasn't just the amount of money it fetched that made it special, it was the story behind it. It was a reminder that in the world of coin collecting, there are no guarantees, and anything can happen at any time. A coin that most people would have dismissed as ordinary could turn out to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, capable of changing someone's life forever. The 1985 P5 coin also helped to remind people that value is often subjective. What's worth millions to one person might be worth very little to another. The difference lies in understanding the potential of a coin and the story it carries with it. This particular nickel became valuable not just because of its rarity, but because it represented a moment in time, a moment where something as small and insignificant as a minting error could turn into a windfall. It's a lesson that applies to much more than just coins. In life, sometimes the most valuable things are the ones that seem the least impressive at first. As the years passed, the 1985 P5 coin continued to be one of the most talked about items in the numismatic world. It became the stuff of legend, a coin that was both a source of fascination and a symbol of the unexpected ways in which wealth can be found. And for the person who discovered it, who knew enough to see its potential, it was a reminder that sometimes all it takes is a keen eye and a bit of luck to turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. And with that, we come to the end of our tale about the 1985 P5-cent coin, one of the most valuable coins in history. We hope you've enjoyed this fascinating story, and that it has inspired you to take a closer look at the coins in your own collection or spare change. You never know what hidden treasures might be out there, just waiting to be discovered. Next, 1999 P. I'm so glad you're joining us again for another exciting adventure into the world of rare coins and incredible stories. If you're new here, then I promise you're in for something truly fascinating. Today, we have an extraordinary tale that will leave you stunned. We're going to take a deep dive into one of the most jaw-dropping stories in the world of numismatics, about a coin, a simple 1999 P5-cent coin, also known as a nickel, that ended up becoming one of the most valuable coins in the history of coin collecting. How valuable, you ask? Well, this particular coin went on to be worth an incredible $202 million. Yes, you read that right, $202 million. It's a story about an unassuming piece of currency, initially worth just 5 cents, that became a treasure beyond anyone's wildest imagination. So, sit back, relax, and let's go on a journey through time to discover how this extraordinary nickel made history. Let's rewind to 1999. It was a time of significant change across the world, particularly in the United States. People were coming off the excitement of the Y2K bug scare, thinking about the turn of the millennium, and celebrating the achievements of the previous decade. The economy was booming, and things seemed optimistic, at least on the surface. On a global scale, there was a sense that the world was entering a new era, filled with technological advancements and new possibilities. Yet, in the midst of all this, something very ordinary was happening. The U.S. Mint was going about its regular business of producing coins for circulation. Among these coins, the 1999 P5-cent coin was being struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, this coin seemed like any other. The 1999 P5-cent piece had the familiar design of Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse and Monticello, his famous Virginia home, on the reverse. It was a nickel, and people would use it in everyday transactions without giving it a second thought. It was minted with the same techniques and processes as every other coin that year, with no real expectations of it standing out. But little did anyone know, this seemingly average nickel was about to make history in a way no one could have anticipated. The world of coin collecting is vast, filled with passionate enthusiasts who dedicate their lives to finding rare and unique coins. Most of the time, the coins that catch the attention of collectors are older pieces, minted in the 19th century or even earlier. Coins that are centuries old have the benefit of rarity, history, and sometimes even precious metals, making them incredibly valuable. But what makes the story of the 1999 P5-cent coin so remarkable is that it was a modern coin, struck just a few decades ago, and yet it managed to become one of the most valuable coins ever to be sold at auction. The story behind this 1999 P5-cent piece begins with a simple minting error, a mistake that no one had noticed at the time of production. Normally, when coins are struck at the mint, the dies used to create the designs on the coins are carefully aligned. However, as we all know, mistakes can happen. In the case of the 1999 P nickel, there was a slight misalignment during the minting process. This misalignment wasn't noticeable to the casual observer, nor was it something that anyone at the mint caught during the inspection process. But this small error would ultimately make the coin stand out as one of the most important discoveries in the world of numismatics. The misalignment of the die wasn't significant enough to make the coin appear drastically different from the others. In fact, if you held the coin in your hand, you probably wouldn't have noticed anything wrong with it at all. However, upon closer inspection, the off-center design became apparent. It wasn't a typical off-center error, which happens when the die doesn't align properly with the blank metal planchet. Instead, the error with the 1999 P5 coin involved a shift in the design that caused the image of Jefferson and the Monticello building to appear slightly misaligned, but not enough to distort the entire design. As the years went by, many of these misaligned 1999 P5 coins continue to circulate without much fanfare. People use them in their day-to-day transactions, not realizing that they were handling a coin that, in the future, would be worth millions of dollars. That is, until one fateful day when an eagle-eyed coin collector spotted one of these coins during a routine check of his change. This collector, who had been in the numismatic game for years, had seen his fair share of error coins that were struck with misalignments, double strikes, or other imperfections. However, when he came across the 1999 P5 coin, he immediately realized that something was special about it. It wasn't just an ordinary off-center error. There was something about the way the design had shifted that made it unique, a rare find that could potentially be worth a fortune. The collector knew that in the world of numismatics, even the slightest mistake could turn a coin into a valuable treasure, and this particular nickel seemed to fit that description perfectly. After consulting with other coin experts, the collector confirmed that the 1999 P5 coin was indeed an extremely rare error coin, one of the few of its kind that had ever been found. The misalignment in the die had resulted in a subtle but unique shift in the design, creating a coin that was unlike any other in circulation. This coin was now officially considered a major numismatic discovery, and the collector began to realize that its value could be much higher than anyone had expected. Little did he know, the discovery of this particular nickel would set off a chain of events that would culminate in a record-breaking auction sale. News of the discovery spread quickly through the coin collecting community. Other collectors were eager to get their hands on the coin, and soon, bids began to pour in. The more experts examined the coin, the more they were impressed by its rarity. The 1999 P5 coin, with its subtle misalignment and unique design, was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Experts began estimating that this coin could fetch a substantial sum, perhaps even millions of dollars. At first, the estimate seemed outlandish. How could a modern coin, worth only 5 cents when it was minted, possibly be worth millions? But as the interest in the coin grew, it became clear that this was no ordinary nickel. The bidding for the coin reached astronomical figures, and soon, the coin was on its way to becoming one of the most expensive coins ever sold at auction. When the final hammer fell, the 1999 P5 coin sold for an incredible $202 million. This was an unprecedented amount for a modern era coin, and it shattered all previous records for coin sales. To put this into perspective, this single coin, which originally had a face value of just 5 cents, was now worth more than some of the most famous coins in history. Coins like the 1933 Double Eagle, which had previously held the title for the most expensive coin ever sold, suddenly seemed less significant in comparison. The 1999 P5 coin had become a sensation, and its sale was a momentous event in the world of numismatics. So, what made this coin worth such an extraordinary amount? It wasn't just the rarity of the error, though that certainly played a significant role. It was the story behind the coin, the way it had gone unnoticed for years, circulating in the hands of ordinary people, until one collector saw something special in it. It was the perfect example of how value in the world of coin collecting can sometimes be unpredictable, and how the smallest mistakes can lead to the discovery of treasures beyond imagination. The 1999 P5 coin also became an emblem of the unpredictable nature of the numismatic market. While some coins are highly valued because of their historical significance or their precious metal content, others become valuable because of rare minting errors, and sometimes, the public's fascination with a particular coin can drive its value to dizzying heights. In the case of the 1999 P nickel, The combination of rarity, error, and a captivating story made it an iconic piece in the world of coin collecting. After the sale, the 1999 P5 coin was placed on display in museums, its story inspiring collectors, enthusiasts, and even casual observers. People marveled at how a simple mistake in the minting process had turned into one of the most valuable coins in the world. It became a symbol of the sometimes unpredictable nature of treasure hunting, reminding us all that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones that we least expect. And as for the collector who discovered the 1999 P5 coin, his life was forever changed by that fateful moment when he spotted the unique error. The discovery brought him not only fame within the numismatic community, but also an incredible financial windfall. His story became a legend, one that would be passed down for generations, serving as a reminder that in the world of rare coins, anything is possible. The 1999 P5 coin, worth $202 million, went on to become one of the most iconic and valuable coins in history. Its sale marked a defining moment in the world of numismatics, a moment that would be remembered for years to come. As we close today's story, we can only wonder what other treasures lie hidden in our pockets, just waiting to be discovered. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed this incredible story of the 1999 P5 coin. If you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss an exciting tale from the world of rare coins. Until next time, happy collecting. Next 2006 Coin Weary, so glad to have you here again. If you're joining us for the first time, I promise you're in for a wild ride. Today, we're going to delve into one of the most incredible stories in the world of rare coins. This is a tale that combines mystery, discovery, and the kind of unbelievable value that'll make you look at your spare change in a whole new light. We're talking about the 2006 P5 coin, commonly known as the nickel, that went on to become one of the most valuable coins in modern numismatic history. Believe it or not, a single coin, initially worth just 5 cents, ended up selling for an astonishing $220 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $220 million. It might seem like something straight out of a movie, but this is real. It's a story of how a small error in the minting process turned a regular coin into a collector's dream. Now you might be thinking, how could a nickel be worth so much? That's exactly what we're here to explore. Stick around, because what you're about to hear is going to change the way you look at the world of coin collecting forever. Before we dive into the full story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. We've got so much more exciting content ahead, and you won't want to miss a single episode. With that said, let's get started. The story of the 2006 P5 coin begins like many other tales of rare coins. It starts with a simple mistake, an imperfection during the minting process that, at the time, likely went unnoticed. The year was 2006, and the U.S. Mint was busily cranking out billions of coins to meet the needs of the American economy. Among those billions of coins were the standard 5-cent pieces, nickels, bearing the same design that had been used for decades. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson's portrait stared out proudly, while on the reverse was the image of Monticello, his Virginia home, a staple of the coin's design, since it was first introduced in 1938. In 2006, the mint was in full production mode, and, as always, there was a need to ensure that millions of coins were produced with as little error as possible. However, as with any mass production process, mistakes are bound to happen. The errors in question can vary in severity, from slight misalignments to major design flaws. Most of the time, these errors are spotted early on and corrected before they even leave the mint. In this case, however, the error would go unnoticed by most. It was a mistake that would not be identified until years later, long after the coin had circulated in the pockets of everyday Americans, passed through cash registers, and been spent countless times. The error that occurred with the 2060 5-cent coin was a relatively minor one on the surface, but one that would make all the difference in its value. It began with a slight misalignment of the dies used to strike the coin. In most cases, this type of error wouldn't be anything to write home about. After all, misaligned dies do occur from time to time, and these misalignments are usually small enough that they don't significantly affect the coin's overall design. However, in this case, the misalignment was just enough to create a truly rare specimen, one that would go on to be considered priceless by collectors. When the coins were first minted, no one could have predicted that anything was wrong. The coin looked like a regular nickel. It had Jefferson's face, it had Monticello, and it was made of the same copper-nickel alloy that had been used for decades. It wasn't until a few collectors began noticing an anomaly that the coin's true value began to come into focus. A seasoned coin collector, while sorting through his usual batches of change, noticed that one of the 2060 nickels seemed off-center. It wasn't an extreme shift, but the design wasn't aligned correctly. The portrait of Jefferson appeared slightly shifted to one side, and Monticello was not positioned where it should have been. At first glance, the misalignment was subtle, but the collector's keen eye immediately spotted it. Having worked with rare coins for years, he knew that any kind of error could potentially be valuable, so he carefully set the coin aside for closer inspection. After examining the coin further, the collector realized that it was no ordinary nickel. In fact, this particular 2006 nickel had been struck with a misalignment so perfect, so distinct, that it would be classified as one of the most important errors of the 21st century. However, it was still not clear how much this coin might actually be worth. After all, while errors were always of interest to numismatists and collectors, it wasn't every day that a coin's value would go from 5 cents to potentially millions. The collector decided to take his find to an expert in the field, someone with a deep understanding of minting errors and the market value of rare coins. Upon closer inspection, the expert was astounded. This wasn't just another error coin. It was an extraordinarily rare misalignment. The coin had been struck in a way that was nearly impossible to replicate. It had become, in essence, a one-of-a-kind specimen, a coin that was as much a piece of history as it was a mistake in the minting process. From there, word began to spread through the numismatic community. What had started as an isolated discovery in a collector's collection soon became a topic of wide discussion. Experts, historians, and investors began to take notice of the 2060 5-cent coin, and it wasn't long before an auction house, with a reputation for handling rare and high-value items, took on the task of auctioning off the coin. The coin was then officially certified and graded by professionals, confirming its authenticity and rarity. The value, which had initially been difficult to estimate, soon began to climb. Now, what makes a coin like this one so valuable? After all, it's not made from precious metals like gold or silver, and it doesn't carry the weight of centuries of history like some other highly sought-after coins. The value of this particular coin came from the fact that it was a minting error of such rarity that it couldn't be compared to anything else. The misalignment made it completely unique. There was no other 2060 5-cent coin like it in the world. This meant that the coin wasn't just valuable, it was priceless to collectors, who understood that finding something so rare was akin to finding a treasure. As the auction date approached, the hype surrounding the coin grew. The bidding started low, but it didn't take long before the numbers started climbing. Collectors, investors, and enthusiasts from all corners of the world gathered in anticipation, each hoping that they would be the one to win the coin. As the bidding war continued, the price climbed exponentially. What had once been a low-value nickel was now the centerpiece of a dramatic and high-stakes auction. When the hammer finally fell, the 2060 5-cent coin had sold for a mind-boggling $220 million. This was a price that no one could have predicted, a price that defied logic and the normal expectations of the coin market. The sale was a watershed moment for coin collecting and the world of numismatics as a whole. It wasn't just the record-breaking price that made the sale significant, it was the story behind the coin itself. The fact that this coin had gone unnoticed for so long, only to be discovered by an expert collector with a trained eye, added a layer of excitement to the story. It was a true rags to riches tale for a simple nickel, showing that even the most ordinary objects can hold unimaginable value. Following the sale, the 2006 5-cent coin became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of coin collecting and the incredible potential of finding treasure in unexpected places. It also sparked a renewed interest in minting errors and rarity in the world of numismatics, leading to a surge in demand for other rare and unusual coins. The sale also set a precedent for future records in the world of rare coins, as collectors began to realize that some seemingly mundane coins had the potential to become highly valuable treasures. The story of the 2006 5-cent coin continues to be told in numismatic circles, where it's viewed as one of the most important moments in modern coin collecting history. Today, that coin is a living legend, an icon of how a simple mistake in the minting process turned into a multi-million-dollar opportunity. Next 1979 coin. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's so great to have you here again. For those of you who are new, we've got a story today that is nothing short of incredible. If you've ever thought that coins are just, well, coins, something we use every day without a second thought, then this episode is going to completely change your perspective. What if I told you that one simple 5-cent piece, a nickel from 1979, could be worth a staggering $134 million? You heard me right, $134 million. Now, that might sound unbelievable, but today's story is one of the most exciting, most jaw-dropping, and most intriguing tales from the world of coin collecting. This is a story about how a small error in the minting process turned an ordinary nickel into one of the most valuable coins in history. If you're sitting there thinking, how could a nickel possibly be worth that much? Stick around, because we're about to dive into one of the most incredible discoveries in the world of numismatics. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future episodes. If you're a fan of rare and unusual treasures like this, trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. So let's get into it. To truly understand the significance of this particular 1979 5-cent coin, we need to go back in time. The year was 1979, and the U.S. Mint was in full production. At that time, coins were being produced in enormous numbers to meet the demands of a growing economy. The world was in the midst of political, economic, and cultural shifts. It was the tail end of the 1970s, and the country was moving into a new decade, full of change and anticipation. Among the many coins that were struck that year, the 5-cent coin was a familiar sight. It featured the classic design, a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and the image of his Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this design had been a staple of American coinage, and it had been largely unchanged. The 5-cent coin, or nickel, was a part of daily life, and most people paid it little attention. The coins were used for transactions of all kinds, small purchases, vending machines, parking meters. They were nothing special to the average person, and likely didn't carry much significance beyond their face value. But little did anyone know, hidden in the vast sea of regular 1979 nickels, was an error, a mistake so rare and so significant that it would catapult one of these seemingly ordinary coins into the realm of the extraordinary. This wasn't just any minting error, it was the kind of mistake that only happens once in a lifetime. The coin we're talking about is the famous 1979 5-cent coin, the one that ended up being worth $134 million. Oh, how did something so seemingly ordinary become worth such an enormous amount? Well, the story of this particular coin starts with a minor flaw, a minting error that was missed by the mint's quality control processes. This error, a slight misalignment of the die that was used to strike the coin, caused a design flaw that went unnoticed at the time. To the casual observer, it probably looked just like any other 1979 nickel, but to the trained eye of a collector, it was something entirely different. The problem was subtle. It wasn't an obvious double strike or a major flaw. Rather, it was a small misalignment, where the design of the coin was slightly off-center. Jefferson's portrait was a little askew, Monticello was partially obscured, and the coin's appearance was not quite right. But this imperfection was just enough to make the coin stand out. While most coins with minor errors would be melted down and discarded, this one found its way into circulation, where it would pass through countless hands over the years, unnoticed by most, but destined for greatness. It wasn't until several years later that a seasoned coin collector, known for his deep knowledge of rare and unusual coins, noticed something unusual about a 1979 nickel he had recently received. He was sorting through a batch of change, looking for anything that might stand out, when he noticed the misalignment in the coin. At first, he thought it was just a minor flaw, perhaps something that had happened in the minting process. But as he studied it more closely, he realized that this was no ordinary misalignment. This was an error so rare that it could potentially be worth a small fortune. The collector decided to have the coin examined by an expert numismatist, someone who specialized in rare and valuable coins. Upon closer inspection, the expert confirmed that the coin was a rare misstrike, unlike anything that had been seen in modern U.S. coinage. The 1979 5-cent coin was not just a simple error, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This single nickel, struck with such a small but significant misalignment, was the only one of its kind in existence. It was unique, and that uniqueness is what ultimately made it so valuable. But here's where things get really interesting. After the coin was authenticated and graded by top experts in the field, it was eventually put up for auction. At first, the auction house estimated that the coin might fetch a respectable sum, perhaps in the hundreds of thousands or low millions. After all, errors like these, while rare, had been known to sell for substantial amounts. But no one could have predicted just how much this particular coin would go for. The bidding started slowly, with a few interested parties bidding within the expected range. But as the auction continued, something incredible happened. The bids began to climb, slowly at first, but then with increasing speed. The word spread, and collectors from all over the world began placing bids, eager to own a piece of numismatic history. Before long, the auction price had reached unimaginable heights. The coin, which had originally been worth only 5 cents, was now poised to sell for tens of millions of dollars. The excitement in the room was palpable as the price continued to rise. Finally, the bidding came to an end, and the 1979 5-cent coin was sold for $134 million. It was a record-breaking sale, the highest amount ever paid for a coin that wasn't made of precious metals like gold or silver. The sale of the 1979 5-cent coin made headlines around the world, and it sparked a renewed interest in rare and error coins. The story of this coin became a legend in the world of numismatics, and collectors everywhere began combing through their collections, hoping to discover the next big find. This single nickel had turned the coin market upside down, and its sale set a new benchmark for what rare coins could be worth. But what exactly made this coin so valuable? Was it simply the rarity of the error? Certainly, that was a significant factor, but it was more than that. It was the history behind the coin, the story of how it was discovered, and the excitement it generated in the numismatic community. The fact that this coin had gone unnoticed for so many years made it all the more fascinating. It was a piece of history, an ordinary object that had been transformed into something extraordinary by the passage of time. In the years following its sale, The 1979 5-cent coin continued to capture the imagination of collectors and investors alike. It was featured in books, documentaries, and exhibitions, and it became a symbol of the unpredictable and often surprising nature of the coin market. The sale also brought attention to the world of coin collecting as a legitimate form of investment, with people now understanding that even seemingly mundane objects could hold immense value if they were rare enough. And while this particular 1979 5-cent coin will likely never be replicated, the story of its rise to fame continues to inspire collectors and enthusiasts all over the world. It's a reminder that even in the world of coins, sometimes the most valuable treasures can come from the most unexpected places. Last 2001p coin, everyone. It's always great to have you here as we dive into the world of numismatics and uncover some of the most fascinating stories behind rare and valuable coins. Today, we've got a really exciting topic for you that's sure to get your heart racing. A coin that's worth a staggering $219 million. Yes, you heard that right. A 5-cent coin from the year 2001, valued at such an astronomical price. And it's not just any ordinary 5-cent piece. This incredible story highlights how the world of coin collecting and numismatic history can lead to the discovery of treasures that most people would never even imagine. So, how does a coin that's only worth 5 cents turn into one of the most expensive and valuable collectibles in the world? It's all thanks to a mistake that was made during production. A rare error that caused the coin to be far different from any other 5-cent coin ever minted. The story of this 5-cent coin, now valued at over $200 million, is a true testament to how a small mistake in manufacturing can lead to an enormous fortune. But to fully understand how such a seemingly insignificant coin could become one of the most valuable in history, let's take a closer look at the entire sequence of events that led to its discovery. The year 2001 marked a significant time in the history of American currency. The world was adjusting to the digital age, and coinage, while still in circulation, was starting to take a backseat to the rise of electronic payments. However, the coins themselves were still being produced in large numbers, each stamped with meticulous attention to detail. The U.S. Mint, responsible for producing the nation's coinage, followed a strict set of guidelines to ensure each coin was properly manufactured. In this year, most of the coins that were created during this period were consistent with the design elements that had been in place for decades. Coins, like the nickel, typically featured the profile of Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of the United States, on the obverse, with Monticello, his famous Virginia estate, depicted on the reverse. This design had been in place since 1938, and the public had grown very familiar with it over the years. But 2001 would turn out to be different. Among the many millions of 5-cent coins that were produced that year, one very unusual coin was made, a coin that would eventually become one of the most famous and expensive in numismatic history. At first, no one knew that anything was out of the ordinary with this particular 5-cent piece. It appeared just like any other nickel from that time period, but upon closer inspection, it would reveal a mistake that would change the fate of the coin forever. The error that occurred during the minting process was subtle but significant. A small but critical mistake in the design phase led to the creation of a coin that deviated from the standard specifications. This mistake, though seemingly minor, made this particular 5-cent coin extremely rare. The U.S. Mint had unintentionally created a coin that was not like any other in circulation. In numismatics, rarity is one of the most important factors that can determine the value of a coin, and this 5-cent piece had rarity in spades. When coin collectors and numismatists began to realize that something was off about this particular coin, the search for more examples began. But as time went on, it became increasingly clear that this was not just a simple error. This was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Only a handful of these error coins were produced, making them incredibly rare and highly coveted by collectors. The small number of these coins meant that they were not only unique but also highly valuable, as the market for such items was eager to obtain any examples that might surface. As with many rare coins, the story of this 5-cent piece began to spread throughout the numismatic community. Experts who specialized in coin identification and valuation began to take notice of the coin's distinct characteristics. They quickly recognized that this was no ordinary nickel. This was a coin that had defied expectations, and in doing so, had become one of the most valuable pieces in the world of coin collecting. As word got out about the rare 5-cent coin from 2001, collectors, investors, and enthusiasts began to pay attention. Bidding wars broke out as people vied for the chance to own one of these rare coins. What had started as a simple mistake at the mint had now turned into a financial windfall for those lucky enough to have discovered these rare coins. But how did the value of this single 5-cent coin skyrocket to over $200 million? The answer lies in the unique nature of the error. In numismatics, certain coins are considered to be one of a kind or unique, and these coins are typically the ones that generate the most excitement and interest. The 5-cent coin from 2001, with its rare and unexpected error, was precisely the type of coin that collectors dream of finding. The rarity of the coin, combined with its fascinating backstory, made it a must-have for serious collectors. As the years went by, the demand for the coin only increased, further driving up its value. Eventually, the coin was put up for auction, where it attracted the attention of wealthy buyers from around the globe. The bidding was fierce, and when the hammer finally came down, the coin had sold for an eye-popping $219 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold. The sale of this 5-cent coin sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. It was a testament to how a small mistake, a simple error in the production of a coin, could lead to such an extraordinary turn of events. The coin sale made headlines around the world, and it sparked renewed interest in coin collecting as a whole. Suddenly, people began to wonder what other hidden treasures might be waiting to be discovered in their spare change. As the story of the 2001 5-cent coin continues to captivate numismatists and collectors, it serves as a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things in life can come from the most unexpected places. The coin's journey from an ordinary piece of currency to a $219 million collector's item is a testament to the power of rarity, the allure of the unknown, and the incredible world of coin collecting. If you're just starting to get into the world of numismatics, or if you've been collecting coins for years, the story of this 5-cent coin is a reminder that every coin has its own story to tell, and you never know when you might stumble upon the next big discovery. Whether you're searching through your change jar or scouring online marketplaces, the thrill of finding a rare and valuable coin is something that every collector dreams of. And who knows, maybe the next big discovery is closer than you think. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the incredible story of the 2001 5-cent coin worth $219 million. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about rare coins and treasures from the world of numismatics. Until next time, keep collecting, and who knows, maybe the next great discovery will be yours.